Over to you then, Rick.
All
I'll
right. Well,
continue letting
thanks.
people in.
No, sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys, again. And I, like I said in the little chat there, I was taking some requests. So I did. I had four little flies that I was going to do, but had a request for an emerger, and I've got an awesome emerger that I just love. So I'm putting that one in place of another. So today we're going to just start with these are. I'm calling them North American style because I know they're not the British style buzzers that you guys tie. They're more North American style chironomids. So today we'll start off here. These are a new hook that a um, a local guy here in British Columbia helped design, and they're called an aquatalon hook, and they're actually just for chironomids or buzzers. So they're taking place. I can't remember if it's the TM code 20. I can't remember what the number is, but so it's just a new hook. So far, loving the hook, but not happy that it's got barbs, but it's the way it is. But I'm just going to be using some nano silk in 12-aught black for the base of the fly and basically the body. And just get that started right behind the. Sorry, I lied. Get started right behind the eye here. Sorry, I'm going to grab my magnifying glass. I am having a hard time seeing. I've been a little sick the last week here with vertigo and stuff, so my eyesight's a little messed up.
Don't go fishing in a boat then.
Sorry, what was that?
Don't go fishing in a boat.
Yeah, that's true. I actually I bought a new boat myself this year, just a little pram that a guy here built, a little 8-foot marine grade plywood, beautiful little boat, 8 foot long, 4 feet wide, just beautiful. First trip out to a lake in October. Water temperature was 37 degrees Celsius Fahrenheit, and yep, ass over tea kettle into the water. That thing is so unstable. So a little bit of white antron for the gills. I'm just going to place this in here. Just catch it in right at the front here. Just a couple of turns. Just going to turn it to make sure it stays on top, which it has. A couple of nice tight turns. Then I'm going to cut off the back in a bit of an angle. Take my whip finisher. Now you can put a little bit of head cement here if you'd like, but I never found it's needed. Just give that a whip finish. And depending on the size of your bead, the size of your hook, go up in the bead or down in the bead. This one here, I'm just going to really tightly pull that up and over. And then I'm going to take my scissors and just cut the length of that gill. I only want it to be about a couple of mil the most. Sorry if my hands are in the way. Just want a short little. Oh, did I seize up on you guys?
No, it's fine.
No.
No, that's funny. My video did. That's okay. As long as if it does seize up, let me know, guys. Right now it's showing on mine that it seized, but I don't care. I'm just going to keep tying. So okay, so I'm just waxing my thread again, just so it sticks. You can put a little bit of crazy glue on if you want. I know some people do, some people don't. I always find wax is good enough. I'm just going to build a little bit of a taper here as I go. Now, sometimes I'll put a red bud on these with red thread. Just a little bit of red nano silk or red classic wax or whatever brand you like. But this is always for me the first. This is my first chironomid on every time I go out. And if I'm going to be chironomid fishing, and we usually do it under a strike indicator or a bung, right? So this is always for me my first one on. Again, depending if it's early season, quite often I'll put on a blood-worm and get down deep. But so now I take a little piece of 0.1 mil or extra small red wire. Let's get that started. And then same thing, 0.1 mil extra small silver. Catch that in. Then I try to keep both of them together and either on top or on the side. I just came undone. Sorry. Try to keep them on top or on the side. Gonna wax that. Just catch those back in. I have to tell you, this vertigo crap really plays with your head when you're trying to tie small flies. I've been avoiding small flies the last couple of weeks because of this vertigo, but so I'm just going to keep that in nice and tight together. Bring those down. Come around the corner a bit. I'll give my thread a counterclockwise spin to flatten it out. And then I'm just going to come all the way back up, ensuring that I don't see any of the hook through the black. All right, so I'm going to see if I can take a look on your side. Doesn't look too bad, a little bit of the wax there, but that's okay. Now I'm just going to do another back and forth a little bit just to complete my little taper. Come back. I'm going to come to the front there. I always give myself a little half hitch or 1 or 2 turn whip finish here, just in case I bump it. I don't want to knock anything off. Then I'll take both wires. You can do it separately, but I take both wires at the same time. Oh, thank God for magnifying glasses when you're old, eh? Come right forward. Then I'll just tie that off right in behind. Helicoptering. Get rid of those. Do a real quick little 2-3 turn whip finish here, just to get it in there. Cut that off, and then I grab. Right there. Just grab my red thread. In this case, it's just nano silk. I'd prefer not to use nano silk. I find that just actually having this conversation on one of the local websites here. We're finding that the nano silk and some other companies, the dyeing is just not up to snuff, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm just gonna take that off. I just waxed it a bit. I'm not gonna do that because it picked up. You see, it looked white. The dyeing of some of these GSPs lately is just, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with them, but the quality is not that good. And I've always had a complaint, even when I'm no longer with Semperfli, I stepped down. But when I was with them, I had a complaint about especially their red. I found that it wasn't as red as it should be. So, but not to bash them, because great material. Some of their materials are just phenomenal. But I don't know if it was the setting process or what. But so now I'm just going to whip finish. Make sure I try to get that little taggy down. Come forward. Make sure it's well whip finished. I'll do one more set. Coming forward. And I want a nice red little area there right behind the bead. And then you can either take a really thin coat of UV resin or use whatever you like. I like Sally Hansen's, but I'm going to use just a really thin coat of Gulf Thin Min right now. If I can find where it is. I mean, and ever so thin. the thinnest layer you can possibly put on, because you don't want to add any, as you guys know, with these midges, you don't want to add any thickness to them if you can possibly. So, and I usually will put a good coat of this on, like a nice thin coat, and then I'll put a thin coat of Sally's on after. And the main reason I do that is I've tried probably 30 different brands of UV resin, and I've never found one that cures 100%, 99%, but never 100. And sometimes you get these little pockets of air and stuff in them as well, like not air, but were places where the UV resin didn't get in and fill. So I just coat it with a little bit of just as thin. It's like I dry my brush off as well as I can. Get as much as that off as I can. Just have a super dry almost, and just give it a real quick little coating. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, like I said, it helps fill in any little spots that you didn't get. And two, this will make it as hard as a rock, right? And I can catch 150 fish with one of these little chironomids, right? And not have it fall apart on me. So that's it.
What size hook
Yeah.
is that again, please?
That's a 14. I tie these in a 12 through 18. 12 would be what we would call here, we call them a bomber. But 12 would be like the absolute biggest. 14, 16 seems to be the sizes that I like, that I use the most.
And Rick, what size bead was it, please?
You know what? I don't know. It's in a mixed box right now. So I'd have to take a look at my bags and see which one it was. But it's whatever size fits this one. Like I had to fight to fit this on. So just give me a second. I can look it up.
Probably a 3 mil, Rick.
Yeah. Yes. See, again, the big difference, which is it's so stupid because we're in Canada and we're metric, but Big Daddy down south rules us, and we usually go by inches. So it's like I think it might be a 332. Let me just take a look. Right, I know it's so silly, considering that we're we're a part of Great Britain. I mean, we're metric and stuff. It's weird. So, but just what it is here, unfortunately. So let me take a look here. They were a 332, which is a 2.3 mil.
2.3 mil. Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry that took me so long. So you can still see my screen? My slide?
Perfect.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see anything. My computer's black. So okay, so I'm gonna put that on a little clip to let that Sally's dry. And we fish these not 50% or 80%, 100% of the time under an indicator. So we'll set it. We'll put that on a loop knot, and we'll about 2 feet up. We'll have a tiny little swivel, and then we'll go depending on the depth of the water. Let's say it's 15 feet. We'll start off at 14. Set that down there. You get nothing, put it up at 12. You get nothing, put it up at 10. Till you find where the fish are feeding. Not my favorite way of fishing. It's a very British Columbia way of looking at things. But the big problem we have here that really screws things up for us is we're only allowed one fly. So you're kind of limited to your techniques, right? If you had 3 flies, there's so many advantages to having 3 flies. Unfortunately, here you're allowed 2 rods, but only 1 fly on each. So hey, next. Little request by somebody. I'm not sure who asked, but I'm going to do a little emerger for you guys. It's actually going to be a big emerger. Just makes it easier for you guys to see. But it is a Midge Emerger. So this is a Hens BL 550 in a size 10. It's one of my favorite emerger hooks. It's a clink hammer hook, but love these things for emergers. Again, I'm going to start off with some black thread. I'm going to be using some the Uphaven black floss for the body and the rib. I'm going to be using some mirror tinsel in 1/69th for 0.4 mil for another secondary rib. Some Hens CDC in black for the this is going to be a shuttlecock style, and then some the hair dubbing plus from Hens just for a little thorax area. So okay, let's get going. Again, just yell at me if the picture goes dark. I don't not seeing anything right now, so a little frustrating, but it is what it is. So I hear you guys all got some snow down up there.
Bit.
Didn't last long.
Frozen.
Yeah, we got our. Sorry, what was that?
Everywhere's frozen.
Yeah, well, we got our first dump. Oh, it would have been mid-October, and then it went away for a while, and then about mid-November it came back, another dump, and hasn't gone away. We've just been dump after dump after dump after dump since then, and we've in this whole area we've got one lake that I know of that's at about 2,000 feet. That's not frozen. Everything else has got 8 inches of ice. So we're now ice fishing. So just gonna come back up to there. I just want a nice base for my my fly. Then I'm gonna grab just one piece of this black floss. And I'm going to tie it in about at the halfway point. So I've got some for the rib and some for the, I got to go back to the back end. Some for the rib and some for the, actually, I made a mistake. I got to do my tinsel first. So yeah, I'm going to put it at the halfway point so I can do some for my body and some for my rib, right? Instead of tying in a secondary piece. I'm just going to tie in my Mirage Flash here. This is probably my favorite little emerger for midges, chironomids. I just love this thing. I actually did a very similar pattern to this on a video a week ago on my channel. So I just love this style. So now that I'm there, got that coated, I can again counterclockwise spin to keep my thread flat and come back right to the back end. Now I'm going to tie in my about the halfway point. And this can get a little finicky because it always wants to tangle up with the front piece, but whatever. You just got to kind of give it a good pull, nice and tight. So now they get nice and tight. Just lift that up. A little half hitch there, just so it doesn't go anywhere on me. Then start winding this super tight, as tight as you can get it. Keep a nice thin body. I find this just gives it a bit of a slicker look more than anything. I could have went with just thread, but I like the slick look that this Flexi-floss gives the fly. Again, probably tying more for myself than I am for the fish, but I guess we do that a lot. So I'm just going to come back to where I stopped there. Make sure you got that tied down really nice, because as you guys know, tying with these types of things, when you cut it off, they whoop, take off on you. They run away. Just like a vein when they're trying to get blood, always runs away. Nice tight, pull that off. So now I'm going to take my black floss and I'm going to give it a really good twist up, because I want this to be more rounded as for my rib. And every time I go around, I'm going to make sure I twist. 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 Just to make sure, because if I don't do that, it'll end up flat and you won't even really see the rib. You want a bit of a, not like, I don't even know if the fish really notice it. Like I said, this is probably more for the fishermen than it is for the fish, but just seeing that body segmentation, right? So bring that forward. I'll come back to there with my thread. Tie that off really well, because the same thing, I'm going to be cutting that under pressure and you don't want it to go zip back, right? Now this isn't a huge deal if you got a little bit of a piece hanging there, because it's all going to get covered with dubbing anyway. Oh, and I did forget one thing. I use a little bit of where to go, orange goose bite for the wing buds. That's here somewhere. I'll have to find out. There it is. So a little bit of Inferno orange goose bite for the wing buds that I'll be putting in. So now I'm just going to follow that rib with the Mirage Flash right tight up against the rib. Oh, that's not working because I'm going the wrong way. There we go. So right tight up against that last rib. Right tight. Right tight. Just again, it highlights the it's just highlighting the segmentation. It's all that's doing, and giving a tiny little bit of attraction to it. But just come back over top of that just a little bit. Righty. So now I'm going to tie in my little goose bite wing buds. Two of those buggers off of there. I'm just going to cut off the point, because I don't want it that thin. So I'm just going to cut off that point a little bit. I'll tie that in on my side. So very similar to how you guys tie in your wing buds for your buzzers. Pretty well exactly. Don't have to be as particular with this, because you'll see I end up cutting off 90% of this. Obviously you want the shiny, more colorful side facing out. So I'm just going to have to turn that. Sorry, guys. Probably not sure if it's out of your vision, but I'm just going to pinch that and bring that back a bit to about there. Okay. Then I leave them alone. Let them sit there just like they are. Then I'm going to go into my little hen's bag of tricks, little bag of CDC. I'm going to grab, depending on your CDC, if you've got a very good quality, you can get away with one. Sometimes you need two, sometimes you'll even need three. But with these here, I know 99% of the time is perfect. So that's 2 stacked. And I want a couple of mil at least sticking past. So I'm just going to tie that off right about there. Maybe a little bit longer. Pull that out. and come back to where I stopped with those wing buds. Cut that off. And then this is up to you. You can do whatever color you'd like. I like usually doing either a black or kind of a rusty brown here. And that's what I'm going to do here is kind of a rusty brown. And I take this brown here. Hopefully you guys can see that. And this orange, and kind of just give it a little bit of the orange mixed in with the brown. Not a lot of the orange, just a little bit. And I mix it just in my hands. I'm just going to dub that on nice and thin. You don't want a thick bulge here. And quite often what I'll do is I'll actually, and I think that's what I did in my last video, is I mixed a little bit of kapok dubbing in with it, and that'll help with floatability as well, right? Then I just lift up my wing here, just to give it a couple of turns. My whip finisher.
Way to be the one making her go.
That a couple of turn whip finish. Take some of my Sally's or whatever head cement you like using. Whatever head cement you guys like using. Just give it a quick little coat right onto the thread. Then again, I'll lift that out of the way there and just get in and give it a nice 3-4 turn whip finish. Cut that off. Make sure that's sitting forward. And now I'm going to cut my wing buds just past, just sticking past that dubbing. And that's it. Now, if I had more time, I would have coated the body with some Sally's or some UV resin, but just because I want to get through this, I would have done that first. I would have tied them up to that point of like 6 or 8 of them, let them all dry, and then continued on. But so that's it. There's one with just all black, right? So,
Does anybody have
Alrighty.
any questions for Rick? No, they're all happy, Rick.
okay.
Hmm.
That one's very simple. I just fish that one, especially when I see the fish just sipping below surface, and you just see their dorsal fin coming out, but their whole body's not, and they're just sipping below the surface. That's when I usually switch over to emergers, and I love these ones that just. Now I do tie them too with a. And it's a little counterintuitive, but I do tie them as well with a white CDC instead of black. It kind of acts as let's call them the gills, but more than anything, it's for me, so I can use them as a cider. Because it's kind of hard to see. But I mean, if you know where you've cast and there's a ripple and a bulge there, and your line goes tight, there you go, right? So, but sometimes I do. Tie that with a white CDC plume instead. So just putting some materials away and I'll grab my next one. So I do have a kind of this one here's one that I use in rivers and lakes. The next one, it's a little different. It's a bloodworm. It is a little different than what a lot of people will use as a bloodworm. But like I said, I use this one in rivers and in lakes. Nope, that's the wrong. Sorry, I had a couple of packages. I've got all my stuff pre-packaged in Ziplocs. I grabbed the wrong one. That one's for if we have time. So, like I said, this one it's really simple to tie. And I tie like these really fast. I can probably tie, I don't know, 3 minutes if I'm giving her tie one of them. So it's nice because especially if you're fishing these in a river, and you want to bounce these right along the bottom. Of course, you're gonna lose some. So you want to make it that it's an easy tie, right, and that it doesn't take you forever. So I'll just put that in there. So right now we've got a Hens BL254N in a size 12. I'm going to be using, these are just little, I think they're 3 mil. They might be 6. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure these are 3 mil red seed beads or glass beads. If you want to add a little bit of weight to this to get it down even faster, these do go down pretty quick because they're slick. But if you want, just put a red tungsten bead on instead. I really like these seed beads because they got that silver underneath, and it really just gives it that look, right? So then I will use some Nano Silk in red. Going to be using some, again, Uphaven Flexi-floss in red. And then we'll be using the little tiny bit of the red hair dubbing plus. And I really like this hair dubbing plus for this because it's got that extra little little bit of sparkle in it, right? It's got every so little. Now the hard dubbing works well. Any just nice soft red dubbing would be perfect. So whatever brand you guys prefer. I got this twisted around the arm here. There we go. Okay. I thought that felt a little tight. So this, like I said, super simple to tie. And it just it can be done so quickly once you've done it. So now I'm just going to leave an inch, whatever, something like that, past the back end. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to come around a little bit closer to the end there. Doesn't really matter. You're going to cut that anyway. So if it's a little longer or a little shorter, doesn't matter. Sorry, this is not cooperating with me. And then do the same as what I did with the black there. Sorry, I'm just going to give this a counterclockwise spin. I was wanting to go back on you. It's one thing I always try to teach when I do this to the younger generations is for thread control, that if it's wanting to always go forward the line when you come like this and it wants to go forward like that, make sure you give it a counterclockwise spin. But that'll help. It'll want to go back on top instead. Just one of those little things, right? That we all know as experienced tires. So, okay, super simple. Zippity it up. Just going to build a little bit of a taper here. It's not the easiest to build up a taper when you've got Nano Silk, but especially when you got the 12 and 18 and aughts, but just a little bit of a taper. All right. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Keep this really thin at the back, as thin as you can. And then I slowly let this go and let it get a bit, sorry for bumping the phone. Let it get a little thicker, and go up to the front. See, that creates a little bit of a taper, but a little bit of a bump at the back because of the tie-in point, but I'm not too worried about that. All right. Give that a real good pull. Just cut that off. Take a little bit of that red. Like I said, super simple, but man, have I caught a lot of fish on this fly. Lakes and rivers. I'm not wanting to put too much up front here. Mostly this is just to kind of cover that tie-in point of the bead, where the bead is. So just a little bit more, just to cover that bead transition. That'll be perfect. So now you can whip finish. 4-turn whip finish. Again, a little bit of Sally, which I tie quite a few of mine actually with no head cement. I just make sure I do 2 or 3 sets of whip finishes, and I've never had one fall apart. So that Sally Hansen's right in there and doesn't affect your. Sorry, I'm just gonna cut that a little wrong. That way it doesn't affect your dubbing. Yeah. Let go of the nano silk before I should have. So now I'm going to grab this tail really tight and give it a cut. It's super, super, super simple. Give that a little bit of brush just to have a little, just tucking a little bit of Velcro here and just brush out a little bit of that red. And that's it. There's another one that I tied a couple yesterday. A little bit more dubbing. Another one, a little bit less dubbing. So, yeah, and they're, like I said, they're absolutely killer. In lakes, I fish these right on the bottom, and if I know that there's a marl or muddy bottom, I'll actually use a sinking line and let this sit right on the bottom, and then give it a couple of quick little pulls, little tugs, and get that little puff of sand or puff of mud, and then just let it sit there, right in the mud, and the fish will come and swallow it up right in the mud. They'll have a mouthful of mud with them when they do it. In rivers, I just kind of do it at a straight across cast and just let this thing dead drift down and if possible bump the ground. So 25% longer leader than depth, and just let her go. So, any questions on that one, guys?
Good. Good.
Okay. All right, time for you guys to laugh a bit. This is an ugly, ugly, ugly fly. And I mean ugly. But again, in the rivers, this thing has, I've never done well on the lakes with it. So it's kind of an apps worm, but not an apps worm. I call it my frayed apps worm is what I call it, but it's just, it's an ugly fly, like a really ugly fly. But has it caught fish, especially like in the rivers? I said I've never tried this in the lakes, so I can't say how well it will do. But whew, just going to use, I think these are 7/64 or 7/64, so 2.8 mil black bead. Now I do prefer these in a flat black, but I don't have them in flat black, so they're going to go into full black here in the shiny black. So, and I use 2 beads on this. Now, I don't know what your guys' regulations are with beads and if you're allowed to have 2 and all that. I don't know, but so, alrighty, let's get tying. So for this, I'm going to be using. Sorry?
Is that a size 10?
Sorry, this is a size 8 Arex FW 581.
Thank you.
And I'll tie these in a 6, 8, and a 10. I tie these in with this hook, but with the one I really like tying them on, and I don't know if you guys can get the hooks over there or if you've even seen the fly. It's called a San Juan worm, and they tie it all with it's a really weird shaped hook and wire. That's it. Period. That's it. That's all it is. Just red wire and that hook, and then coated with some Sally Hansen's, And holy, that's probably the number one producing fly on the Bow River in Alberta, period, hands down. And so this is kind of an apps worm version of it. Like I said, I bastardized it myself, but it's just something that I played around with years ago, and it worked. So I'm like, what? If it works, just let it go, right? Who cares how ugly it looks? I mean, I know there's some purists out there that, oh, you can't fish that. That's a lure. That's not fly fishing, and whatever. If it catches fish, and that's all I care, right? So, but that's me. So again, red Flexi-floss from Uphaven. And I'm going to use about I don't know, maybe 2-inch piece, 2.5-inch piece, something like that. I'm going to tie this in the back end. Let it stick out. And then I'm going to just turn my vise a bit here so I can get this over to the other side. Kind of want these going off to the sides, similar to how you would tie in goose bites for a stonefly type of thing. It's not the prettiest tie-in in the back, but again, the fish don't seem to mind, so I'm not going to worry about it if they don't. Alrighty, then I'm going to take a little bit of, now this is up to you which kind you want to take and use, but I'm going to take a little bit of this Semper Flash mirror flash. I'm going to get that out of my way. Can you guys see that?
32-inch.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to be using. This is going to be my body. Gives a little bit of that flash into it. So I'm only going to come up about 1/4 of an inch or a couple of mil. Sorry, I just keep missing that, capturing it in. There we go. Just bring that back. Like I said, that back end is kind of ugly, but I don't really worry about it. They don't, so I don't. And then I just do one layer of this because I kind of want, if you use black, it's going to look different. If you use green, it's going to look different. If you use red, it looks different. So I want this little bit of a rusty hue to come through. Rusty red or red. Use red thread. This is a classic wax. It's wood duck from Semperfly. This color. It's kind of a rusty. I call it rusty red, but it's not quite rust. Okay, and then I'm going to take my whip finisher. Sorry, I'm not going to take my whip finisher. I'm going to build up just a little bit of a bulge there. Just make sure that bead can't slide back, which it still can. So build up another. This is going to be hidden anyway. You're not going to see it. I'll be under that bead. Oh, there, that's good. Okay. Just do a little bit of a finish. Like I said, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see it. So who cares what it looks like as long as it's tied well. Drop that back over top. Put my thread back on. I could have come forward just a couple more turns there, but it's not a big deal. They're never consistent. They're all over the place. Same thing, just going to come forward, just going to grab that tinsel, wrap that in. And again, it depends on how much of the underbody color that you've used you want to come through is how many times you can either overlap or you can just do touching wraps. I'll show you guys a couple more later that you can tell that it's a different underbody color. Yeah, I could definitely have come up another a millimeter or so with that back bead, but that's all good. So now I'm going to take a orange buzzer wrap, Flexi-floss. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing I did in the back, but I want these obviously facing up or forward, which is a little bit difficult here because of the bead in the way, right? So just want that to be on the side. And then I'll turn, I'll just give this a wrap over top of it and then come back on this side. This is the part that I find can get a little bit finicky. So this one's definitely not as quick as the other one, but if you can get on top of it, get that over, not have to catch that other one in. There you go. Just have to catch that once. Once you've caught it once, it works really well. So it's very apps wormy at this point, other than, you know, the adding the beads in. But now I'm going to, again, quite often I'll coat these with UV resin or whatever, just so depending what you're catching. I find like I've caught a lot of brown trout on this, and their teeth kind of have a tendency of tearing things apart. So I usually coat them. Give that a nice tug, make sure that's tight. And then I'm going to do basically the same thing I did. I made a mistake. I'm sorry, guys. I usually put a little bit of, shouldn't have cut that off, a little bit of dubbing right there, just kind of to hide in that tie-in point. So the same kind of that rusty, kind of orangey, rusty colored brown hair dubbing plus. Yeah, I know some of the guys here in Canada that I know that are kind of like the real dry fly purists and stuff. Oh, they'd freak if they saw this fly. But you guys don't seem to be as crazy about that. You guys just really have embraced lures and all kinds of stuff. So I think my opinion is awesome.
It's whatever catches fish, isn't it?
That's how I always say it. But these guys are, well, it's not fly fishing. You might as well throw a spoon at him. And yeah, well, if I wanted to throw a spoon at him, I would throw a spoon at him. I don't have a problem throwing a spoon either. Right? Okay, so now that's, like I said, basically an apps worm. But what I'll do now is I'll take my back end. I'll kind of do the same as I did. Well, no, I'll do the same as I did with the last one, and I'll pull these really tight, both of them, and I'll fray it. And I'll do the exact same in the front, however long you want it. I like the front a little longer, so fray it. And then if they don't fray properly, I'll just do it myself. Didn't fray all the way, so. And like I said, super ugly. That's it. Fly is done. Super, super ugly fly, but holy man, have I caught a lot of fish in the rivers. And I think it's the movement more than anything. But I can say that there's been days where this has outfished everything else that I've thrown by a long shot. So I'll tie them like this as well. Here, I'll take that off just so you guys can see it a little bit better. So not just another way I tie them is with a silver rib and all red. So that's another way I tie them. It all depends. I have multiple styles and colors and sizes in my box. Right. So, and the crazier and uglier, like I'll even go in here and there's still some here that I can even pull them apart even more. And I will. Like you can see this one here, it's kind of only frayed a little bit. So I'll open that up and I'll just fray it right up. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know why, but I'm assuming it's movement. They just go nuts for these. So, yeah. That's it.
Like you said, there's going to be so much movement in that.
Yeah. Yep. Tons of movement. So, I can throw another one together if you want. I don't have anything else planned, but I can throw another one together.
Yeah, go for it, Rick.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
don't remember our Flexi-floss doing that when you cut it, though.
Sorry, what was that?
I don't recall our Flexi-floss doing that when you cut it. It normally just stays in a single strand.
You know what? Every single brand I've used, whether it's Up Avens or Semperflies or there's so many different, I've used probably 10 different brands. They all do it. When you pull really tight, they all fray.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the downfalls of them when you're trying to do certain things. Like if you want just a little tail that doesn't fray, and if you pull too hard, it frays. Right. And some are much worse than others. I actually like the fact that this one does it when you pull. Like I'm pulling almost to full extent of what I can pull on.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Right. It's not just a little pull. It's I'm pulling. So
Great.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's see. Well, you know what? What I can do is I'll just show you guys a little bit of one of my chironomid boxes here. Hopefully you guys can see. But so this is very typical of what you'll see over here. Guys will tie, like mine are not quite as perfect because I'm not a huge chironomid or midge fisherman, but they'll tie the same pattern in a 12, a 14, like 3 and a 12, 3 and a 14, 3 and a 16, 3 and an 18, 3 and a 20. Move on to the next color, right? Some guys here will have 5,000 chironomids in their box with them, right? And it's just not who I am. So, like, I like some of these more shiny ones, the chromier ones, some greens, browns, get into my bloodworms. And then at the bottom, I have a few English style buzzers. But this is only, I have an actual buzzer box as well. But this is very typical of what you'll see in a person's box here. Okay, let's go back to. That was my. This might take me just a minute longer because I'm having to find stuff. Because, like I said, I figured that would take a little longer than it did, but it didn't.
Sorry, Rick, do you have a name for that last fly, the ugly one?
I just call it my frayed apps worm. That's what I call it. Yeah, and if for some reason, I mean, you guys will have this recording, but if you want to see it as well, I do it on. I do the red one, the one I showed second. This one on my YouTube channel. This one here.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's just what I call it, frayed apps worm, because it's an apps worm with weight and it's frayed, right? So
Lovely, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. There we go. There's what I was looking for. Now hopefully I can get one of these little buggers on.
He's in British Columbia. They got 2 foot snake.
What was that?
Oh, Adam's talking to Carol.
Sorry?
Adam is talking to Carol, his partner.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. All good. There we go. So this is, again, a very typical North American style chironomid or buzzer, whatever you guys want to call it. Here we call these chironomids, and we call your guys' style with no weight and the little wing buds and all that. We call them, but and we call these chironomids. So, which is kind of weird because it's the same thing. But so this, I'm just grabbing what I got out of the desk. This is one of my favorite chironomid hooks as well, the BL550, the clink hammer hook. Love tying chironomids on the clinky. These are size 10. I mean, rarely would I tie it this big, but it's what I have out. So this is an That's not the one I wanted. That's an olive done. Let's see, do I have? I might not have one handy. I'll tie this in a gunmetal, a really cool one in a gunmetal. Just gotta find the right. Like I said, sorry guys, I wasn't prepared for a fifth one. Is that gunmetal? Steel. There we go. So it's the steel that I'm going to be tying it in. This is, again, it's a very basic buzzer chironomid pattern. It's very basic, but another one of those. I don't know. Some people, they especially here, they go nuts with how detailed they get with chironomids, and it's like, I don't know. I've caught tons of fish with not very detailed flies, and why would I want to spend hours and hours and hours trying to tie these fancy flies, unless it's for fun? But for fishing flies, no. Sorry, my old eyes are just trying to thread the bobbin. I like tying these really simple ones as long as they work, right? So there it goes. So, all right, let's get going. Actually, I'm going to see if I can get that bead on the other way. I tie the beads on with the larger part of the eye, the larger hole forward when I use gills, but I'm not using gills on this one. The white bead head, or snow cone, as we call them, is supposed to represent the gills. So, like I said, this is a huge one. I would never usually, like, there is a couple of lakes here that have what we call bomber runs, or where there's, I mean, huge chironomids come off, it's like down to size 6, huge, absolutely monsters chironomids that we will tie big ones for, but they're few and far between. So that is. And then some black wire for the rib. This is, again, because of the size of the chironomid, I'm using 0.2 mil. Normally I would, for like 6, 12, 14, 16, 18s, I'd use 0.1, or if you're using like a UTC, an extra small. And sometimes on this one, I'll put on a red butt, just use a nice red classic waxed or whatever, or even a red mirror flash or something, mirage flash. And I'll put that and just build a little bit of a red butt. But UTC used to have this really wicked steel colored thread, and for some reason they stopped making it. And I know one of our like I told you guys earlier, I'm not with Semperfly anymore, but one of the young ladies from BC here, Deb Pascal, she had an old roll still of it, so she sent it to Semperfly, and they made this, and it's close, but it's not the same. It's just not quite right, because that was such a deadly color here. A lot of the guys would tie with this and window tint, and create a chironomid that way. And oh my God, that was such an amazing chironomid, or ABS. So now I'm just gonna do my rib. Like I said, super simple, but again, very effective. Just give it a bit of a whip finish right there. Cut that off. Then I'm going to grab, normally I'd grab a red, but I know the Nano Silk Red is not going to show through very well. So I'm going to grab this wood duck or rust and just do that because I've done that before and I know it looks really good. So it's unfortunately that whatever. I wish these Nano Silks GSPs would have just better color saturation, but yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a, again, this is, I don't know if it's because we copied the Brits, you guys there, or what, but I think this is kind of our style of your guys' buzzer. Like this right now, what I'm doing is supposed to be the wing case, which is, goose biots or whatever you guys are using, right? And then the white is supposed to be your gills and so on and so forth, right? And I just cut that. No, I didn't. Right? So it's just a different way of doing what you guys already do, right? So now just a little bit of very thin coat. I'm not sure. I think I might have nicked that thread. So if I did, I think I'm going to just make sure that I get UV on that first. I've been waiting. Uphaven came out with a new UV resin. They're actually guaranteeing it tack-free. I don't know if anybody here has used it yet, but I ordered mine. I'm on their pro team, and I ordered mine in November. But because we had that stupid mail strike here just before Christmas, everything's sitting in custom, so I haven't got anything yet. Like I said, that was from November. Oops. So just a little bit, you have to make sure that head is well protected. And then I'm just going to give another little coat in the back here. Like I said, I'd never ever tie one this big, ever. Unless I'm using it for one lake here, Tunkwa Lake, that's got the bomber run. That's what they call it, the Tunkwa Lake bomber run. And they can get some big chironomids in there. But other than that, I would never tie a chironomid this big. Just finishing it up here. Are your guys' lakes over there all barbless, barbed? Like what's the regulations over there?
For what, Rick?
Sorry?
For what?
Are your hooks like? Is it all barbless hooks over there, or
No,
like for your
no,
regulations?
no. People use what I always. If I've used a barbed hook, I always debarb it.
Okay, yeah, because unfortunately, we've got what we consider some trophy lakes here in British Columbia, and our government thought it'd be a good idea to take away the barbless hook only law, because we've got, it's been for about 20 years, quite a few lakes here that are barbless hook only, and they're in the regulations for next year, they're taking that away, and now it's going to be like you're allowed barbs in any lake, and just like, really, I don't know. So that's it, really super simple. But you see, it gets kind of that silvery gray kind of sheen on it. I'm not sure if you guys can see it as well, but it's got a real silvery gunmetal kind of steel kind of look to it. And then it's got that nice black rib, and then a little bit of red or orange wing bud hot spot. So, but, but this is a very typical that one and the very first one I did, where is it now? Where did I put it? I don't even know where I put it now. But the very first one I did, the chironomid with the black and the red rib, and the gills out the front with the antron, very, very typical North American style. There we go, chironomids, right? Again, like I said, this is huge, massive, but very typical style that we don't do the whole buzzer and then build up that football shape area and then and put in wing buds and all that. We just and hot spots. It's not something we do a lot. The hot spots are in the heads, sometimes in the butts. This is what they call a snow cone style. And this is just the with the gills out front. But if you take a look at 95% of all chironomid fish, and we've got some crazy chironomid fishermen here in BC, that this is the style they use, is this type. They're going to use gills, they'll use a black bead. If they're not going to use gills, they'll usually use either a white bead or a black, sometimes a black bead as well. But very, very typical, super skinny, right? We don't do let me see if I've got your style of buzzers that are, not really, not in this box, right? But I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever had Gary Hankey on the show, on the presenting for you guys. If you haven't, I would suggest you guys do. He's actually a master fly tyer here in Canada. He's actually one of the only Gaia certified fly tyers in all of, and he is the only, sorry, not one of, the only Gaia certified tyer. And so he kind of takes the buzzer and our style and kind of hybridizes them, right? This is one of his. It's no thread. It's all one material, no thread, right? So, but I guess difference in how we do things here to how you guys do things. And I tell you, since meeting Gary about 12 years ago now, I tie and I fish probably 80% UK style flies, dabblers, crunchers, snatchers, boobies, blobs, cat's whiskers, all that kind of stuff. I never even heard of these things until 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's just not what we tie this style of chironomid, and then we tie dragonfly nymphs, damselfly nymphs, and then searching patterns like the Carey Special, the Spratley, that kind of thing, mayflies, that, right? We don't tie a lot of attractor style flies, if you want to call it that, or a lot of lure style like you guys do, and or the older school, what we consider older school, the dabblers, crunchers, snatchers, right? Those are things that just you'll find maybe 10% of the tyers in this country tie those, maybe 10%, right? So I've been doing a lot more, and actually I actually competed in a British Columbia lock style championship here in September. And when I went into it, I said to myself, okay, I'm going into this and I'm only using British style flies. And that's all I did. And I got a 7th place finish, right? So, which I was quite happy with, using only British style flies, right? So everybody was kind of like, what the hell are those? Which is kind of great. So enough yapping for me. Anything else, guys?
Thank you, Rick. Much appreciated.
Rick, thank you very much indeed. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, thanks very much. Good evening.
You're welcome, guys. I'm glad you guys liked it. And like I said, anytime you guys need somebody shorthanded, like last minute, just let me know. Semi-retired. I'm just But I am retired from my government job, and I'm just writing books and that kind of stuff. So I'm always got time. So if you guys ever need anybody to fill in, you know where I am.
Cheers, Rick.